Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, text number 3. Gyayaksanitya Sanyasi Yonodvaishtina Kankshati Yadvandvohi Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchate Yayaksanitya Sanyasi Yonodvaishtina Kankshati Nirdvandvohi Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchate Yayaksanitya Sanyasi Yonodvaishtina Kankshati Nirdvandvohi Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchate Yayaksanitya Sanyasi Yonodvaishtina Kankshati Yadvandvohi Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchate Yayaksanitya Sanyasi Yonodvaishtina Kankshati Yadvandvohi Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchate. Ladies. Gyayaksanitya Sanyasi Yonodvaishtina Kankshati Mahabaho Sukham Bandhat Pramuchate. Gyayak should be known. Sahi. Gyayaksanitya Sanyasi. Sanyasi. Nitya. Always. Sanyasi. Renouncer. Yahu. Na. Never. Dveshti. Abhors. Na. Nor. Kankshati, desires. Yadvandva, free from all dualities. He, certainly. Mahabaho, Almighty Armed One. Sukham, happily. Bandhat, from bondage. Pramuchate, is completely liberated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, Almighty Armed Arjuna. Purport. One who is fully in Krishna consciousness is always a renouncer because he feels neither hatred nor desire for results of his actions. Such a renouncer, dedicated to the transcendent loving service of the Lord, is fully qualified in knowledge because he knows his constitutional position in his relation with Krishna. He knows fully well that Krishna is a whole, that he is part and parcel of Krishna. Such knowledge is perfect because it is qualitatively and quantitatively correct. The concept of oneness with Krishna is incorrect because the part cannot be equal to the whole. Knowledge that one is one in quality, yet different in quantity, is correct transcendental knowledge, leading one to become full in himself, having nothing to aspire or to lament over. There is no duality in his mind, because whatever he does for Krishna. Being thus freed from the platform of dualities, he is liberated even in this material world. So the text again. Yayaksanitya sannyasi yono dvaishti na kankshati hidvanvo hi mahavaho sukam bandhat pramuchate. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, Almighty armed Arjuna. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Satarne. This is one of the recurring themes that actually sannyas means to give up our material concepts. And our material concepts begin with hankering and lamentation. The two activities of the material world are hankering for what we don't have and lamenting over what we lost. Now in the spiritual world there's also hankering. There's hankering for Krishna and lamenting that we don't have Krishna. So that's correct, hankering, lamentation. But Krishna has to be included. So whatever we do, we simply have to include Krishna and it becomes perfect. To a certain extent, because we don't have envy and then we include Krishna there. But even that's not so bad. But if Krishna is included, then, especially if we hanker for Krishna and we lament we don't have him, then we become an actual sannyasi, an actual renouncer of the material world. So sannyas is not simply changing of dress, it's changing of consciousness. Now, of course, if we become attached to the changing of dress, then that's not sannyas either, because it's hankering for another material designation. And if we simply hanker to give up our hankering by becoming attached to Krishna, and we're lamenting the fact that we don't have Krishna, well, that's actually really sannyas. Otherwise, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, well, he didn't say it, Ramananda Roy quoted the verse from Lord Brahma. Jnanam jnane priyasamarupasthanamanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam stane sita shutikatam dhanuvang manovir ye priyasa jita jitop yasasitaistri lokyam. So, the real thing is to give up the tendency to speculate. Gaya. Jnanam, jnane priyasa. Priyasa, udapasta. So this desire, this tendency towards speculation, jnane priyasa, udapasta, to put far aside. So we may not be aware of the fact that we're hankering and lamenting, but we're conditioned. That's what it means to be conditioned. Everything that we're looking at reminds us, practically, since time, everything is like a vision into time immemorial of exactly what we've done, what we thought about that particular object or a similar object, and what we did with it since time immemorial. So at every moment, everything we're looking at is either bringing up hankering or lamentation. Good or bad, this was good, that was bad. This was enjoyable, that was very, distressful. So that's called duality. And one has to give up that duality. So here the word uses sukam. Kam means what? What does kam mean, Adipurusha?
Sometimes they say going.
Kam?
They say easy going and hard going. Also means an axle.
Ka means also, what does ka mean?
Sky.
Sky, space, yes. And su?
Well.
Good space. In other words, right now our space is rather limited in our heart. And when sukam means when there's no limitation, when it's an open heart, there's no impediment in the heart. especially for the natural feeling of the soul, which is appreciation and love. So that's called sukham. And du means bad, kam, ka or kam means bad heart. There's too much impediment, distress. So this hankering for things in the material world, which is just illusory, because you can't, there's no sense hankering for something you can't get, or hankering for something that doesn't even exist. Now, of course, we believe that the material world exists, and it does exist in one sense, but actually, even the scientists say that 99.9% of what we see is just space. It's just like they have, I don't know if they have it here, I saw, they have cotton candy. You know, cotton candy? It's 99% space. It's this big fluff of, and you're paying like, you know, so much money for the big fluff, and it's all space with, you know, maybe a quarter of a cup of sugar. So you're just paying to eat space with some sugar added. And you think you're actually getting a good deal. Wow, look how much we got. I paid 50 euros for this thing. So similarly, the material world means to hanker for something that's not really existing the way we think it is, at least. And therefore, we're always in distress because you get it and it's not exactly, you're expecting something and it doesn't turn out to be the way you expected it, the way it was advertised, the way everyone talked about it. It just wasn't quite as wonderful as you thought it was going to be. And then after some time, it becomes disgusting. And you actually, what was love at first turns out to be hate at the end. Or in English they say, what began with courting means romance, ends up in court. Therefore, this giving up of hankering lamentation can be done mechanically, but it's very difficult to give up mechanically because we need engagement. But it can be given up automatically if we just change it from hankering for Krishna. Now, of course, we can't hanker for Krishna so much because we're not aware of what Krishna is like. If you can't hanker for something if you don't have experience with it. So Krishna consciousness is the gradual process, as Krishna says, atachitam samadatum nisakshna simai stiram abhyasena yogena tato mamits chantim dhananjaya. If you can't fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regular principles of sadhana bhakti, and this way try to develop the desire to obtain me. In other words, even if we're not really hankering for Krishna, but still we can chant, calling out to Shrimati Radharani and Krishna, feelingly, as much feeling as we can muster, to kindly engage me in loving service. And of course, that's intelligence, to learn how to chant in the right way. If we don't use our intelligence, we just wind up, with our beads in our hand, and we're mostly looking at our counter beads, and counter bead, please fall down. Sometimes we look at it and we wonder whether it just, I thought I only chanted one round and there's 4 counter beads down. What should I do? Okay, maybe I should put another one down too. And we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram. As if the worst part of the day, the part we least like, is when we get this chance to chant Hare Krishna. The Yuga Dharma, oh my gosh. The Yuga torture. So we have to see with our intelligence that obviously there's a disconnect between my intelligence, my activities, and what's supposed to be reality. So we have to try and change that by, first of all, relaxing. It's all right, it's all right. You'll get through it. It's not that far away, you know. And then try to, chant at least engaging our senses. And then it's, of course, using our intelligence to try to figure out how to change the quality of our chanting, to engage, make it like a game or something with intelligence, get the intelligence involved, and try to hear how we're chanting. And then try to change it around a little bit so it actually sounds at least acceptable for ourselves. Imagine what Krishna's hearing. Oh, Krishna, ra, 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 ra. Snick, snick, ra, ra, de, 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 ra, 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 kitty, 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 ra. Or the 16 rounds with the holy name. 16 rounds with boxing. The first round, ding, first round. And he goes in and is it? Knockout. Knockout in the first round. He's out. So to try to hear ourselves chanting and then try to remember how we should be chanting, what would be ideal. Even Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That Krishna, when he hears it, he'll actually think, well, this person, he might be serious. He actually means what he's saying. So that's why we should try to actually mean something. Calling out as if Krishna was there and Shrimati Radharani was there. Then there is a possibility, all these things that are going through our mind, which usually appear when we start chanting. During the day, we're unconscious. So many things are going through our mind. And we think, no problem whatsoever. And as soon as we start chanting and start hearing our mind, what is talking to us throughout the whole day, and we think, my God, my mind has become so agitated. One devotee once told me, I can't chant. I said, why not? Why not? He said, because every time I chant, my mind becomes too agitated. Oh. You have such a peaceful mind, so this the mind is so peaceful that even the chanting agitates it. Or as, if you go in book distribution, you stop someone in the street, and they go, oh, you're agitating me. As if the person was completely calm and peaceful before you stopped them. He was in Vaikuntha, and then suddenly you dragged him down. So we have to accept that as soon as we start chanting and even make an endeavor to change the quality of our chanting, the background noise of our mind will become even more disturbed because we're actually becoming conscious of how agitated we already are. It's not that we're going to become agitated, we're actually becoming conscious of all the background noise that's going on in our mind all the time. Therefore, we should try to ignore it and simply, not ignore it, because you can ignore it, that would be good, but try to improve the quality of the chanting. And then Krishna says, if it goes back to the same old thing, some thought comes through, I can't forget about that thought. That's too good to think about, to forget about. And then, wait a second, I just went through 3 rounds thinking about that thing. Then bring it back again and try to chant sincerely. And then gradually, if we chant nicely, and we actually start remembering Krishna eventually, actually even we don't remember Krishna's form, we just remember we're chanting to Krishna, that's enough for liberation. Just to remember who we're chanting to is enough to bring us to the platform of liberation from material hankering and lamentation. Otherwise, there is no possibility of becoming free from hankering and lamentation in this age, unless we actually chant sincerely. And as we become more involved in the holy name, then gradually the remembrance of Krishna will come, and then there won't be any. Then there will be hankering on the positive side, hankering for Krishna and lamenting over the fact that we're separated from him. And that's called knowledge, as it explains here. So I'll stop there. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna. The holy name is extremely powerful, and even Namabas gives everything practically up to Vaikuntha.
Liberation.
Yeah. And there is some collection of instructions from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Ji where he says that, okay, you residents of the Gaudiya Math, don't buy medicine, just chant Namabas. You might have seen that statement. So, is that why would he say like this? Because it seems
they're probably buying too much medicine. No, sometimes we take these extreme instructions, but we don't know what the circumstances are. As we can see, many of the devotees that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada acquired, some of them were quite educated, sophisticated, whatever. Some of them came from different backgrounds. So therefore he gave different instructions at different times. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he wasn't against medicine. He wasn't against taking medicine, but excessively taking it so you don't do anything else, but you just spend your time taking medicine. He wasn't into that, overly emphasizing. Yuktahara.
I can mention that I was giving some seminar, mentioned exercise, and devotee said that in Punjabi Bagh, in our Punjabi Bagh temple, if they calculated and they found that they spend more on medicine than on prasadam, so they made a rule: if the brahmachari doesn't attend the morning yoga session, he gets no money for medicine. In other words, everybody has to attend the morning yoga.
We go to extremes. To one thing. Yoga may be somewhat helpful, but the opposite is usually, as probably when I was initiated in the beginning of '69, Prabhupada sent me a letter, and my roommate was also got initiated at the same time, practically within a few days. And Prabhupada wrote to me, he said, engage yourself fully in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That was part of the letter. For my roommate, he said, because my roommate we were both doing Hatha Yoga. We were both, considerably. And Prabhupada said, there's no need to do this Hatha Yoga. He said, it's only being done because people eat too much to help digestion. So the fact is, the actual fact, a little exercise is good. Prabhupada went walking every day. But all the when you start stretching, what happens is you have to keep on stretching in order to keep up the stretch that you got. Otherwise you get tight again. It's like a rubber band or something. But if you learn how to sit properly, then there's no need for all the stretching. And if you don't eat too much, then there's no need to burn off all these calories. Just that people don't do anything nowadays. They don't work. They're usually at their desk. They eat and they have all, they eat a ton of things, and their whole center of attention is now down, their whole consciousness is now down in their stomach. And they're trying to do something at a desk. And it's a fight. And all the blood is there, everything's there, trying to figure out how to digest this stuff. Brain is trying to figure out some chemical that might be available. The ambulance is rushing down to the stomach, with extra blood. And then you think, well, maybe I should do some exercise. Maybe that's the problem. No, the problem is usually we're not Krishna conscious, and therefore we're not conscious when we're eating. And we're not conscious of how much our stomach can actually hold. I mean, the stomach is about the size of our 2 fists together is the size of our stomach. So that's that amount of food. But we're eating this amount of food. I'm wondering, why we're having some problem. Actually, what's having problems is the stomach is having problems. And we're getting the result of it. And it doesn't matter how much you stretch your stomach, it's still not going to be help. If you stretch it a lot, then you're probably going to fill it up with even more. Well, I did some exercise. I better eat more. But usually, as they said, we go through extremes, Either because Prabhupada told Bhakti True Maharaj, don't do any exercise. Because in India, a lot of times, or at least formally, Hatha Yoga meant you accepted a guru. They actually believed that this type of exercise was something spiritual, or helped you on the spiritual path. And therefore, people got associated with all kinds of Mayavadis and impersonalists. So Prabhupada wasn't encouraging that in India. And in the West, he didn't really care, because people didn't have anyone who's really guru at that time. And yoga was just so you can eat better or get slim. Mostly it's for the ladies so they can get slim. But this, everyone has to do Hatha Yoga. It probably won't help very much in the long run. Probably they'll leave the temple and they'll join a yoga society. Anything else? Yes. I mean, I'm not against yoga. I mean, I taught it I was a certified Iyengar teacher. But it's not as valuable as, better to do a little walking, a little stretching or something, but this idea you have to attend it, it's not necessary for everyone. Yes?
I'm interested about something in the verse. There is said Nitya Sannyasi, and in translation is always a sannyasi, and for always some other word is usually used. I mean, what does it mean? Why isn't only a sannyasi? What does it mean? Because when you stop doing all the list of things, I mean, hankering and lamenting, then you stop being a sannyasi. Or what does it mean that in that? What is the significance?
You have to hand and you have to change your cloth. No. As it says, Gyayak, it should be known, one should know, Gyayak Sanitya Sannyasi, that what is actually the platform of sannyas? What does sannyas mean? It means to give up the conception of identifying oneself with the material existence. So actually sannyas, the real sannyas, Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhira Jnana Yoga Vyastiti, is the liberated soul who's serving in Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada says in his purport. So when you're on the Mam Chayo Vyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatitaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, when you're always engaged in devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, you come to the level of Brahman. Then you're actually a Nitya Sannyasi. If you're situated permanently on the level of Brahman, then you're always renounced from the material concept of life. So that's what it means, Nitya Sannyasi. The residents of Vaikuntha, Goloka Vrindavan, they're Nitya Sannyasis. They have nothing to do with the material world. And if we come to that platform here, we become Nitya Sannyasis also. Eternally renounced from the material concept of life. We've given it up. And anyone can do it. Man or woman, whatever. We accept these dresses as brahmacharis, grihastas, just so that we have some because we're not so fixed up in Krishna consciousness. We're not walking around Paramahamsas, and therefore we need some regulation of our senses and minds so we can do some service which is appropriate. And therefore we accept these designations so we have some boundaries of which sense gratification is permissible and which is not, while we're trying to develop Krishna consciousness. Is that all right? Well, I mean, these words like, what other words do they use for eternal, for nitya, always? Sadhana, yeah.
No, I mean this. I thought nitya means eternal, but here it's always.
No, nitya means always.
Sometimes translated as daily.
As what? Regular, yeah. Nitya, what is that? What is that daily routine? Nitya seva. Yeah, regular. Or always. In other words, to be an actual sannyasi, you have to give up hankering, lamentation. And you have to become free from duality. That's the platform. Abhayam sattva samshdhira jnana yoga vyastiti. Freedom from an awareness, pure, and free from all anxiety. Pure means no hankering, no anxiety, no fear, no duality. Like that. And that's all based, and then real knowledge. So this abhayam sattva samshdhira, even this is, everything is reflection of Sat Chit Ananda. Sat, eternity means to know we're eternal. Chit, to be in consciousness and knowledge. And Ananda, no hankering, hankering for Krishna, and lamenting over the fact that we don't have Krishna. Otherwise, it's avidya, because we're not aware, and it's temporary, everything is temporary. Mamupeti punarjanma dukhaliyam shasvatam. The opposite of that is dukhaliyam shasvatam, perpetually unhappy because we're in ignorance. So one will become perpetually happy if he perpetually gives up hankering, lamentation, and the dualities of material existence. So it's not so complicated. That our process is quite simple. The whole reason why the Hatha yogis are trying to put their foot behind their neck is so they can give up hankering, lamentation. They're hankering to put their foot on the back of their neck, and when they can do that, then they feel satisfied. But we don't have to do that. Matter of fact, if we do that, we probably won't be very satisfied. But that's the whole idea of the whole yoga system, is to give up hankering, lamentation, and this idea of duality. Duality arises because when we can't something we think is good, something we think is bad, something we think is pleasurable, something we think is unpleasurable. But it's all in relationship to the body. But if we're actually in Krishna consciousness, yes, things are pleasurable and unpleasurable. But if we're in Krishna consciousness, then at least we'll be happy. The body may not be very comfortable, but we'll be happy in Krishna consciousness. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.